Welcome to Transforming with Us,
where we talk about
all things trans and queer.
Welcome back, everyone. We have some special guests for you today.
Yeah, today on Transforming with Us, we have Rylee and Felicia from up in Canada. You guys want to say hi to everybody?
Hi.
Hi.
What's up?
So we're going to talk a little bit today, about their transitions, where they're from, what kind of got them to where they are now. I know Riley's got a surgery coming up soon, so, touch some base on that. I'm sure you're getting a little bit nervous, aren't you, bud?
Oh yeah, 14 days, literally 2 weeks today.
Oh my gosh, that's coming up so fast.
That's exciting.
I know.
I remember when I first met you, it seemed like it was so far into the future, and now here you are.
Same.
What's the process been like, getting ready to have, phalloplasty and everything?
It's been a lot, over the last couple months. I guess recently I've been more so going through and buying the products that I need for the recovery part of it. But prior to that, over the last year and actually 2 years, I've been going through a process of laser hair removal, electrolysis. It's not just okay, I can go and have this surgery tomorrow. I had to do this whole entire process of going through and getting that laser hair removal done, and continue getting in contact with Montreal, basically giving them updates and letting them know where I was sitting at. And then obviously COVID, that put things back a little longer as well. It's only expected to be maybe a year, and now it's 2.5 years later. But no, it is a longer process than expected. But yeah, the last few months, it's just been going through and getting everything I needed and finalizing all the stuff I'm going to actually need for that recovery part of it. But it's exciting.
And how long have you been transitioning for now?
So it's been 7 years. For me, it was actually 7 years in January.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a long time.
Yep.
How about you, Felicia? How long have you been transitioning now?
It's been just over a year now, officially. It was early March that I first took hormones. Came out about the month before that. And yeah, it's been a lot has happened in a year.
I think that for me, that for sure, the first year was the roughest. I don't know how it's been for you, but just adjusting to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to that, considering I'm right there with Felicia on the 1 year.
Yeah. Nice. It's definitely a growth period. It just feels like you're thrown into a whole different class of things you have to do. And that was the thing, is I was always so feminine. It's kind of one of the things that drove my mind to be maybe you're trans, because I couldn't help the way I was feeling, and I was just starting to associate more with femininity. But then after taking hormones, and then immediately I was on the show less than a month later, I was on a TV show, and then coming back from that and adjusting to living not only in technically a new city, but a city I'm from, and performing and doing drag in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
After that, then the show coming out, meeting Rylee, doing a lot of drag touring lately. Things have just started to pick up in my personal life. So it just one of those things that made me realize that transitioning and making that decision was the right decision, because all of these, the ball just started rolling real fast after that.
Yeah, I was actually just gonna ask how you two met and everything.
So, long story short, it's the first time we actually ever met, was during the summer at a drag show where, I kind of passed her, and I kind of vaguely just remember seeing this person, but I don't remember seeing her.
I remembered him,
but it was just she's that boy's cute, whatever. Didn't really think much of it. But
I thought he was a cis guy. I thought he was just some cute cis guy walking through the park. I didn't even know he was going for the show.
Right. And then so we kind of I guess knew a bunch of the similar people. So then I guess we got suggested to add each other to Facebook. So I just was okay, I don't know this person, but I'll accept. They have a lot of friends in common. And then from there, I had posted on a group that we both were a part of, saying that I wanted to be in more drag shows because I started doing drag myself recently. And she was actually starting to host one after coming back from the show. And it was her first actually show, like
For the premiere of
Call Me Mother. And was asked to do a show with her, and like that's basically like that was my first interaction with her, was the night of her like first production night, like of doing it at the show. So yeah.
I like didn't realize, I thought he was in a relationship when I added him on Facebook, when like I booked him for my show. I didn't know that he was single. And because when he was messaging me, he was very flirty, and I was like, oh, okay, like I mean, I think he's poly or something, I don't know, like whatever. And then it wasn't until like at the end of that night where he messaged me after we like both got home, and he's like, oh, by the way, like
someone told me that you thought I was dating someone. I'm not.
And we haven't stopped talking since.
Yeah, you two perform together now and stuff for shows, don't you?
Yeah,
we've been doing a lot together. We've been like sewing a lot together, like making costumes and outfits together. We just did a lip sync smackdown together.
Mm-hmm.
We were a team in like a tournament style lip sync battle. It's basically just like what you saw on television if you watch Drag Race. And
we did an actual like show together where we did a duet, like just you and I, recently with a I can't remember the name of the ssong.
Which one?
Far away, so we could go come see you guys.
Yeah,
I think it'll. I don't know if this got recorded.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
We've done a few things that like together with shows, and yeah, we've just been working on a lot of different stuff together, not just in drag.
It's just been nice to like meet someone who does the same things you do, and like I never thought, I was like, I do so many obscure things. Like, how am I supposed to meet someone that's like on the same wavelength? And then it just happened.
So, what was coming out like for you both? You know, with family and friends and everything like that. What was it, very accepted, or did you face any struggles?
Yeah, it's kind of complicated, and if you've seen Call Me Mother, you'll know. But for me, like coming out coming out as like gay originally wasn't an issue. Like everyone in my family was like, okay, like whatever, you're still you know, we love you. And that was fine. But then it was like, once I came to the point of like realizing my transness, I think it was like the year before, when Black Lives Matters protests were happening again, and like that conversation was just happening again. I tried to like have a conversation with my family about it, because I'm actually like, I was like my whole family's white, raised by my mom and stepdad, and I never knew my birth father. So like my whole family's been white my whole life, and like I was just starting to like take that time to realize like how that like affected me mentally, and like my identity as like a visually Black person, but like mentally, like I was raised in a white family. I absorbed their values and the things they do, and like it was just kind of breaking that down. And then like that conversation was kind of like difficult to have with them, and I have just like not really spoken to them since about it. So like my coming out as trans has like been since that. So they don't, as far as I know, they know, but like I didn't tell them. But it's just been because it's been almost a year now. Like they're just kind of figured it out. Except for Facebook, like totally outed me to my dad, because when I made like a profile for myself, it like suggested it to him as like, you should add this person, and I was like, wow.
Oh no.
What about you, Rylee?
What about you?
So yeah, for me, it's like, a little bit different. I guess like I as I said earlier, like it's been 7 years ago that I started my transition. It was actually 8 years ago. So about the same thing, about a year prior that I came out to my family. I started telling friends actually even before that, but coming out as gay was again like hard for me as well, because I was 18 when I first came out, and then I actually got kicked out of my parents' house, had to move in with a friend for a bit, and then from there moved out of their place into with my girlfriend and their mom. for basically the 2 years that I was in the relationship. Once like my parents kind of came around and realized again the same thing. They're like, we realize, it doesn't really change you as a person. It just changes like who you are in a relationship with. They slowly kind of came around. I think about 3 or 4 years after coming out, I ended up moving back in with them because I moved to Nova Scotia and then back to Ontario and didn't really have a place to stay. And they're like, you know what, you can stay with us. We have obviously some like guidelines that they wanted me to like not have people over at a certain time or whatever. But they kind of at least were a little bit more accepting of my like relationships with women. And then it was only about a year and a half, maybe 2 years that I lived with them. So from the age of 21 till I was 23, and then came out as trans. And I knew right away because I was like, okay, if the gay didn't go well, this whole trans thing is not going to go over well at all. So I already had pre-made plans just in case that if things did not go well, that I had a backup place to go to, which like when I came out to my stepmom first, I told her, and then she's like, that you're not going to be able to stay here, which I was like, yeah, I kind of figured. Basically, it's now been, like I said, 8 years since that. And only recently have they really started to kind of call me Rylee, started using he, him pronouns. And this is only because I have a little sister who's 10 years old. So it's 20 years age gap. And she has been correcting them and like telling them like, no, it's Rylee, no, it's he, because like, with now in the school and education, like they're teaching them, like a lot more about like queer culture, I guess. So she is 100% like accepting, like my little sister who's 10, like can understand it.
She gets it.
Yeah, but they couldn't, but it took her to be a part of like my life in order for them to really accept it. But it's been a long and like, like process of getting them to that point. But yeah, they're finally slowly coming around.
Your sister is a good ally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually amazing. I think, and this is the reason why we do need to say gay in the schools. When like Florida, sorry, Andrew.
Oh my God,
Florida's not doing so hot with the education stuff right now.
Yeah, they're really not.
They've pissed off the mouse.
Yeah,
like, it's getting real.
Actually, what happened is the mouse actually supported the bill for a while, and they got caught.
Oh, and then they're like, oh no, now we don't. And here's Buzz Lightyear kissing someone.
Yeah, exactly. They actually like did a huge like donation towards the bill. And then as soon as people started to find out, we're like, oh no, wait a minute. What can we do to backtrack this? And then wanted to donate a bunch of money to the Human Rights Campaign and everything for LGBTQ. And it's like, no, you can't just donate against us and then donate for us. And now the CEOs are scrutiny. It's a nightmare at Disney right now. I wouldn't want
to put a black woman in charge. Yeah. She will fix your shit.
That's what it means. Yes, true. I 100% agree. It's kind of funny because like when you're talking about your stories, it's like the thing is like, sometimes family members do kind of come around, and I love that. And and sometimes I don't, and which is understandable too. And I remember like kind of had an issue situation when I first came out, like of course as a lesbian before, I came to terms with my transness as well. And my family did not take that so well, except for my dad. My dad obviously took that well. He would tell everybody in the world he could, oh, my daughter's a lesbian. You're so proud of it. Super weird. Yeah. But then for some ungodly reason, it's like when I came out as trans, my family went, oh, that makes sense. And now my dad has an issue with it. He's the one struggling using the right pronouns and stuff. And I'm like, so I don't know. It flipped. He's trying. They're trying. Which is understandable. But I will say, if it wasn't for my baby cousin, who's young, who just turned 14, but back then, baby cousin, who understood what LGBT was, I don't think my family would be there either. So Rylee, I actually think I agree with you. Your kids are a lot smarter. They really see more who you are.
Oh yeah.
So I 100% agree with that. I have a really unique question. Since you are in Canada, everything works differently here. How is getting on hormones for the both of you? Because I know it doesn't work the same as it does here.
So like it's a little bit different too. Like
you go
started my transition. Like I started my transition in Ontario. So like coming from Ontario to Alberta, like I am finding it's different per province. To kind of actually recap too, like I have a twin sister, so like to touch on, I guess, like she's been 100% supportive of everything right from the beginning, like of being gay, trans, like every part of my life.
She's also a lesbian.
And she's also well, she's queer.
She's queer.
But yeah, like with getting on hormones, you know, like when just like talking with her and stuff, it was like I had to go through gender therapy. At the time when I started, because 8 years ago, I had to get diagnosed with not only gender identity disorder, but also gender dysphoria. So that's no longer really needed in Canada at all. It's very old school. But it took basically, I had to go through like 9 sessions of therapy just to get on hormones. And then that was almost, you know, about 3 months. And then I had to wait to get into an endocrinologist, which was another 9 months. So it was a year by the time I made the decision of transitioning to the time I got on hormones. And then from there, it was getting the approval for top surgery, getting approval for phalloplasty, which is again more therapy. It's just like this process, and it's like a bunch of like hoops that I had to specifically go through
that were built by cis people.
Yeah, so like it was very outdated. It's definitely changed a lot like since then. Like everybody that I talk to back home, they're like, oh yeah, like now I can go to my family doctor, get on hormones. Like they just need a prescription at this point. Like it's a signed consent, which is so much better. But yeah, it was very outdated when I first started my transition.
Well,
so it's changed a lot.
Technically, I still had to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Yeah. So when I did it, I went through an organization in Calgary, Alberta, which is called Skipping Stone. They're a trans outreach network. Basically, like I called them, set up an appointment. They're like, yeah, like we'll get you set up with a doctor that'll give you hormones. We'll get you set up with a psychiatrist that'll diagnose you, like to get the prescription and all that. Like I walked in, I walked out. I had a Zoom meeting the next day with the therapist. They diagnosed me. I met with my doctor like a week later, got my prescription, and then filled it later. And then started taking them.
So easy.
It's similar to mine, minus the gender dysphoria thing, which I do think that they tried to put that on my record, and I was like, please don't. I was like, just I'll put that on my record, because like I went into this because we have Planned Parenthood has informed consent in certain states, and they're like, okay, you're above a certain age, you're not, you know, like I guess they were being worried more when you're under 21, I guess. So like with how they kind of say this, she's like, you know what you're doing, you're pretty smart, you know your risk, you know your stuff, so here's your prescription. And I did it on telehealth. So
I kind of went through this one like Rylee.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had to jump through all kinds of hoops just to start hormones. And I was 32 years old when I officially came out. I tried to come out at 26, didn't work out. 32, I officially came out. I'm almost 4 years into my transition now. But even at being 32, I had to do an additional 6 months of therapy, be diagnosed with gender dysphoria and everything else just to and even after 6 months of gender therapy, I was still denied by my therapist's supervisor to start HRT. I had to go and pay extra money out of pocket to see a psychiatrist last minute to be able to start on the day that I had originally set the appointment to start. And same thing with surgeries, like having to get psychology letters and everything like that. Like I've had to jump through so many hoops just to get to where I am. It's crazy.
Yeah, I needed to
avoid that. I self-paid for top surgery.
Right.
Put it out of pocket, got a
same.
Loan. Worked half of
Same.
I paid half of it in cash. Like I worked really hard, paid half of it in cash, got half of it in a loan, which was not cheap. And I even flew down to Florida and just got it. I was like, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not.
Yeah, I paid for my top surgery as well. Actually, all out of pocket, no loans, no nothing. Paid for my top surgery, but to touch on like for Drew, yeah, I was like, you know, I went through just one therapist for my testosterone and to get on to hormones, and I went through technically 2 originally to go through phalloplasty, and then recently had to get in touch with another one, so 3. And I'm like, is this even necessary?
Right.
Apparently. Yeah. Well, and then in Canada, certain things are covered and certain things aren't. So like your phalloplasty is covered, but top surgery isn't.
And like same for trans women, like up to a certain
surgery is covered, but
top surgery is not. Like it was very weird.
It's like if you have been taking hormones for like a year and you haven't had any breast growth, then you are eligible for coverage.
And then if you've had any like at all,
like any breast growth,
or I guess it depends on the doctor. Like they're like, yeah, it may not be covered. I'm like, this is just
And I mean, I've had it like a bit.
That makes no sense. And congratulations on that,
Right?
because that is beautiful. I love that. I mean, I have a wonderful friend who she transitioned a long time ago. I'll have to send you her photo. She's amazing. And she transitioned back in the 90s. So she went to South Korea for her surgeries. Like, amazing job. They did wonderful. And that's what they wanted. They wanted they wanted everything, because everybody's journey is different. You don't have to do it. And I understand that. And some people don't.
Yeah.
But back then they didn't cover nor care about any of that. So yeah, they had to fly all to South Korea just to get it. And I was like, that's so ridiculous. Like, and of course, like you said, this is all made by cis people who have no idea what it's like to experience this type of crisis.
Right.
No, they don't understand the risks people will put themselves through to obtain these things. Like, why not make it easier and safer for everyone?
People
try and make money off of it. That's the thing I don't understand. These people talk about capitalism and they are not appealing to us as a market.
Right? We're a pretty good market too. To get, if we pay us well. Number one,
RuPaul, she's cornering the market.
Work, as she say, work. So I kind of understand that 100%. It's crazy because I heard recently, like, I mean, I guess I was in a bubble about it, but about trans men and women buying hormones illegally. Like, that's a thing, and I didn't realize that. And it's actually it's being a very big problem right now in the United States, and I didn't realize it was
100%. So I actually run like a secondary group on Facebook called Trans People Hormones and Frequently Asked Questions. How many times I've seen people posting on there being like, you know, like they can't get a refill on their prescription because either, like, you know, for a while testosterone was I went to go fill it and like I couldn't get it filled because it was on back order basically. Or like, you know, like the hoops we have to go through to get on testosterone even. And it was just like people like obviously know they want to transition or they have been transitioning, now can't get their medication. And it's like, you know, they're going to find ways to do that. And I'm like, I would never recommend buying it off of a market ever. Always try and go natural, obviously. But it's just like how many times I've seen that just from like being someone who's made a specific site to like have people come to and ask questions about hormones. I'm just like,
how much
wow.
that comes up.
Yeah, and how much it comes up. I'm just like, this is scary.
Heartbreaking too.
Now, how do you take shots, Rylee, or do you do gel?
I've done shots. So I started by doing it actually intramuscular first. And then over the course of time, just like the scar tissue, it just really started to hurt. And I literally considered going to gel just because of that. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot and switching to subcutaneous. Plus my hormone levels, I'm not kidding you, for the first 5 years, my levels like kept changing. So I had to change my dose like consistently up until my 5-year mark. And then I switched from intramuscular to subcutaneous, which is now going through my fat instead of going through the muscle. And it's just slower like by releasing it. And I'm like, loving it. Like it's just a shorter needle. My levels have like been consistently. I've actually been able to drop the dose that I was on, which is awesome too. And like a lot of people don't like know this in researching. Like I was on point almost 5 after having a hysterectomy, and that's really high for a dose. And now I'm only on 0.35, and I'm like, I've almost cut it in half. And so yeah, I've been doing shots all 7 years, and you are.
I'm on estradiol. Or estradiol.
Yeah,
it's a little pill. I take 4 milligrams of that now. That was changed back in December. So like, yeah, like I've been taking, like I started on 1 milligram of estrogen and 100 milligram of spironolactone, which is estrogen or testosterone blocker. So I took those, and then after 3 months, I would get blood work done, and my doctor would like adjust. So we went up and up and up, and then back in December, like I doubled my dose basically, and like my test results, like estrogen like shot up and testosterone shot down. And yeah, like, you know, all the things that you're reading when it's like, oh, this will happen, you know, in 3 to 6 months, this will happen in like, you know, 9 to 12 months. It's like it all just happened then.
Yeah, it's very subjective. I mean, I know Andrew and I would agree subjective, because I've had people like, oh, what do you want, I was like, I can't go any higher than 0.4 ever. My T levels are high on 0.4. So like my doctor.
Yeah.
The reason why my top surgery was free was because I had paid out of pocket for a hysterectomy. And even after my hysterectomy, and they took everything. They took both ovaries, uterus, cervix. I was like, take it all. I don't need it. I was in a lot of like pain. and I was waking up in the middle of the night in tears and everything. And of course, insurance switched it around and was like, oh, we're going to deny it because it's a gender affirming surgery, even though I needed it done for pain. So that was a whole different thing I had to go through. But even after having the total hysterectomy, the old clinic that I was going to for my HRT, they kept me at 0.75 every 10 days. Still after having total hysterectomy, and no wonder why like my moods and my levels and everything was just all over the place. Last year, I think I had gone through like 4 or 5 different dose changes trying to lower it and get my levels back down to like a healthier standpoint, because it was throwing out the rest of my labs. And making this switch to gel in December, my labs are perfect, all in the green, everything's good, and it's like, okay, I guess this will work.
Yeah, that's
the only trick to it is trying to remember to do it every single day.
Yeah. I mean, I did recently have to change spots where I do my shots because my thighs are doing what yours did, Rylee, and its muscles are starting to get too much. So now I'm doing it in the derriere area, which is working for now, but we'll see. I mean, I'm a really kind of thin, really small person, so like it's like there's not much fat on me. So I'm like kind of
that's why
I've struggled so hard, but like I was doing it in my thigh, and I was like, so I feel you when you said like if the scar tissue just built up, because like I think the last time I did it in my thigh, I was like, I have a really high pain tolerance, and I was like, this hurt. Like I can't do this anymore. I need to find a different spot. So
that's why I like the shorter needles. Like my subcutaneous needles are only like 5/8 instead of like the 1.5 inch like long for the intermuscular ones. And like as you said, like I'm small, and I literally have we figured out 4% body fat. Very
if you're at 4% body fat, I'm probably at like 1.
2.
So it's just like, like doing like the subcutaneous, it's like, yes, to go into your fat, but even like, I'm not afraid of doing the injection anymore. That was a big thing, like a really long needle. I'm like, I don't know if I want to poke this all in me, because I felt like it was going to hit my bone. Like, it's just such a long needle. So just, going into subcutaneous was just an easier decision, an easier like option to do. And like kind of like how you said you switch your injection sites up. I started doing a rotation actually. So what I do is like my left leg, my right leg, my right butt cheek, my left butt cheek, and I kind of do like a circle, and just do that like basically every every shot. I just do it in a different spot, and that way again I'm not always doing the same, like even if I'm just alternating legs, like I'm not switching between 2 spots, I'm actually switching between 4. And I found it gives my body a lot more time to like recover from just like the injections.
That's a really good point. Now, Felicia, the one thing I would really like to ask is, you said that you're on testosterone blockers, and a lot of people, especially right now, I mean, are really upset with athletes because they're like, the whole hormone situation. But you told that you brought up that you are on testosterone blockers. So with being on blockers, how is that? Because I know like energy levels and changes. How has that been for you, going from the levels that you were at, and then taking the estrogen on top of it? Like you said, everything just hit you at once. So what is the process of your going through that, for our listeners to really understand exactly what you're going through?
Well, for lack of a better term, it's hard to get it up. That's been the biggest like noticeable thing. Like I did notice that my like breast started to grow like a little more, like they've just been sore constantly since I started, like every day. And then
your temperature, you're like, I'm
always cold. I was already like a cold person, so now that I'm like on testosterone blockers and estrogen, like my circulation is always terrible. I'm always freezing, until I get really hot all of a sudden. I started crying the other night, like for whatever reason. Like, it's been a lot.
My wife's agreeing and nodding the whole, like, I think she feels your pain. You're going
thank you.
Hormone she's been there when she was younger, when she was 14, she's cis, but still.
No, that's the thing, is like, at least like you can relate. It was just you've been through it, so now I can go to women and be like, why? When will it stop?
I'm like a year and a half post-op from my histo, and I swear I'm still going through like the slam of menopause, like just the hot ups and downs, because you're putting your body through such a drastic change. Like, it's like, oh, 1 second it's here, now we're just gonna remove it all and it's gone, and it kind of just I feel you, Felicia, on the hot and cold stuff, because I could be freezing cold one second and then I'm sweltering hot the next, and it's frustrating, and I don't know what I want to do with my AC or heat.
Oh,
Just both.
literally, like it's like back and forth. But that's the thing, is like dating a trans guy, this guy's always warm.
Literally.
So it balances out.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And plus, you're also like, it's a lot colder up there. So I can imagine you're probably really cold. I mean, I'm
yeah.
Boston. I can't do the winters. I
think it's worse by comparison. Like, we're from Canada. We were born in, we were born in the cold.
Literally January.
Yeah, I was born in November, so we're both like winter children. I still, though, I'm like a little bitch outside. Like, we went cross country skiing, but it was that like single digit minus, which for us is, I guess, like what, 20-30 degrees for you. And it was like so warm that like we had to like take off our jackets and stuff like that. But what?
Yeah, both the Drews are going, nope.
Okay. Americans.
I was born in Germany.
I know when it's like 20 degrees Celsius for y'all up there, it's like, that means like 75, 80s in Fahrenheit. So it's like, whenever I hear my friends in Canada talk about it, they're like, oh, it's 10 degrees outside. And I'm like, what? That's cold. That's freezing.
Today, literally today.
Yeah, it's 10 degrees outside today.
And then we're like, oh, outside, I'm like, just like a nice little like light like jacket. And I'm like, oh.
Hey Google, what is 10 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
10 degrees Celsius is equal to 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
50 degrees Fahrenheit.
I walk out in a t-shirt and 50. That's fine.
Your Google is
my Google, I can you.
Oh my goodness.
My family in Germany tells me all the time, it's like, oh, it's -12 here. We're gonna go out and do some things. And I'm like, -12. And I'm like, that's like 20-30 degrees. I was like, that's a little much for me, but 50, I can do 50. I don't know about Andrew, but I can do 50. I did it today. I walked out in a shirt and jacket.
Yeah, that's spring. It's nice.
Yeah.
50s is good.
But we got down to like what, -50, which I think is -50 Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
I over the winter.
I've had some cold days. Does it snow a lot in Alberta?
I did this winter.
We just had like another snow the other day, actually.
Yeah.
So it's still going. It just kind of never ends until it does, and then it's back.
Nice. I like it.
That's living in Canada.
That's living in Canada. So Rylee,
I know Rylee showed me how it can be all seasons one day. So
I was thinking, right, but you know what's next for you, Rylee? What's next for you, Felicia? What is your next in your steps of what your journey is?
Yeah, I don't know. I like, as far as like transitioning.
What other transitioning career? What do you want? What are your goals for yourself?
Oh yeah, well, just after being on the TV show, and like I have management now, and I'm trying to kind of build up like a bit of a voice acting career. I've actually I already recorded one, so technically I'm a professional voice actor because I got paid for it. I just can't tell you who yet because it's not out yet. So when it is, stay tuned to my social media, and you'll find it. But yeah, no, they just trying to like just work on like basically doing things that I can like. Get paid to be myself and be a drag performer and an actor and just and have time to be an activist and we've been doing I'm planning we're doing like a panel discussion in May with the Drag Academy here in Canada, and just really just trying to like use my platform and use my like representation, because it's to me it's like the best thing that I can do right now with what I have, and like make it work for me, but also like be representation. And eventually get bottom surgery, but there's like a 4-year wait list.
That's one thing I've heard a lot about Canada is, although you guys get like the free healthcare and stuff like that, like I've heard wait times can be excruciating for things, like Rylee was saying, for appointments and things like that. I've heard that things like just everything is just a wait. Even for a cardiologist or something, it could be a crazy long wait just because the healthcare is free, so everything stays so backed up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've been trying to get into like a lung specialist for a
Oh, wow.
But I mean, everyone's trying to get into a lung specialist right now, though. So it's like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, COVID.
Yeah.
And I heard another new variant's popping up, so yay.
Oh, yay.
Canada doesn't
Finally.
want that. They lock
I knew it
Canada
was
down
coming.
when that stuff happens. They're not like the United States.
Right.
Well, our
Oh.
province is like Texas, though. It's run by a person.
Oh no.
I know
sorry.
Florida's always been like one of the biggest hot spots of the U.S. for COVID. We like brew it here. I handle
In
people
Florida?
ships every
Oh
day.
yeah, Florida's bad.
it's like-
They have like a 900%.
you have- Yeah, I work in the cruise line industry for renting cars and stuff right now, but it's like I see people going on those cruises and like you have fun on that floating petri dish because I'm all set.
Literally.
Like, that is a
I don't know. Like I like a cruise, like without a pandemic. The cruise is kind of a nice idea. Like, yeah, you might get a little sick or something, but you know, it's part of the experience. But not now. Not like with like that being that crammed close to people.
No, for 7 days? No.
Nope.
No. I'll just fly to the Caymans.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we have passports for.
I mean, being on a plane is almost like freaky enough to me, but at least you have like the circulated air.
Just realized my passport looks nothing like me though.
Same.
Yeah, and it does.
Oh yeah, I have to get a new passport.
It has the wrong name though too, because I'm a dual citizen, so I actually have a little bit more complications to change my name than other people do. So
oh yeah,
so
because
yeah.
you're dual
Well,
citizen.
what? Sorry.
I'm a dual citizen, so I have a citizenship in Germany and a citizenship in the United States. I was born in Germany, and my family.
Oh, Germany. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. So which is funny because they're actually a heck of a lot better with transgender stuff, and oddly, so is Spain. Spain is like considered one of the most like Catholic places in the world, but they are super LGBT friendly and very big on the queer community, which is really cool. So if anybody ever wants to like hightail it out, we got Germany, we got Spain.
Europe is the place to go.
We can avoid England. We're just gonna avoid them right now. They're having issues with their
Yeah.
no, but everybody else doing pretty good. So, it's pretty neat to hear. I can't believe it's a 4-year wait. That's but I think
It's all been kind of vague. Like at one point I heard it was 7.
No.
Then I heard it was 4, and then I've heard it was 2. So it's really just kind of like,
what's the process of getting on that?
I don't know. Like I tell my doctor I want it, and he puts me on the wait
Because
list.
I think you had to be 1 year on hormones. I think that's like basically, I think even for myself, like I had to be 1 year on hormones if I wanted to get my top surgery covered, or like phalloplasty or bottom surgery. Like
my doctor, I think he just let me like go on the wait list early though, because he knew that I was going to continue the transitioning.
Yeah. Sometimes you could sign up, like in Ontario, I was able to sign up. It was a 2-year wait list just to get in to speak to somebody. Like that would just be literally to see a therapist. So I was like, okay, that'll be at least 2 years waiting. And then, then start the process. And then like, once I'm approved for everything, then surgery. So it probably would have been about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like kind of annoying, but yeah, it's usually once like you get to that point, it's usually they require in order to have surgery. It's like, one year of like transitioning.
Well, and then the recovery and stuff like that, because you get like they'll fly you there because you're doing your bottom surgery. So they're flying you there, they're putting you up in a hotel. They're
transportation,
like taking you to and from the hotel, to and from the hospital. Everything's paid for, covered. Get your surgery, stay there for a few more days after, and then fly home for recovery. But like, just the fact that like both of us, like being trans people, like when I started looking into like the surgeries and stuff like that, like it gave me anxiety because I was like, just having to think of it, of going through that alone, like it was like a, like as a queer people, we have to just kind of accept those really tough facts of life sometimes. So like, it was one of those times where I was like, okay, like this is the path I'm taking. It's going to be really hard, but like, I gotta get to it eventually, to make like myself happy. And then meeting Rylee and like right around him being like so close to getting his surgery, and like, just knowing that I can like be here for you to help you recover, being another queer person who understands what you're going through. You don't have to explain yourself to me. Like, we don't have to talk about these things in advance, other than like what I have to do when you get home.
And the one nice thing was like, like as people, as individuals, like it was, me coming basically to the like the end of my transition, but her like just starting her transition. Like we met and you were only like 6-ish months into like hormones, and I'm like, 7 years.
Mhm.
So it was just like nice because like now, I was able to, and I am able to like help her, kind of like in a sense weasel way like through some of like the hoops and make it a little easier, whereas like so many people when I first started or was looking into things, it's like I had to do that research myself, and like there may have been things that I not like skip in a sense, but there was things that I could have done differently to make it easier. But now I'm able to like help people and be like, okay, this is what you should do, like and guide people through the process a little bit like smoother in a sense. So
I thought I was going to be dating like I usually did, like some straight cisgender man, and would have to like have him deal with all this, but no, it turns out I traded up.
You upgraded.
Yes.
Much better.
I approve. So if you had any words of advice for the LGBTQ youth of today, what would each of you say to them? If you had just one little piece of advice that you would want to reach out and give to our listeners.
I think like the biggest thing I want to say is just be yourself and be true to that. And then if it's someone who's, questioning their identity or questioning their gender or anything like that, like just know that you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there that have either gone through or going through the same thing that they are. And don't be afraid to reach out to like other people like myself or Drew or Felicia. Like when it comes to these decisions, you don't have to make them alone. And I find like for me, even talking to other people who went through that experience kind of validated what I was feeling and how I was feeling. And asking questions doesn't mean that you're questioning like that decision. It's just honestly validates like maybe like how you're feeling, or maybe it validates, okay, maybe I'm not ready. It's just talking to other people and having other support systems. And the second thing would be, if it is a transition, that transitioning, this is something I always say, kind of, Drew, you touched on this, is that with a transition, it is your transition, it is your journey. Never compare, like you said, to somebody else's experience, because your body is going to react to hormones differently than my body. And we have a guideline, or we see people's journeys, and we can look at it to kind of have a basis of what we may expect in our transition, but don't look at it as this is what I'm going to expect in my transition, because my facial hair, and like you said, Drew, your facial hair, and we're I'm 7 years, and Drew, you are now how many years?
I'm almost 4 years in now.
And I'm 1.
4 years, 1 year.
Yeah.
7 years.
So, like all of our journeys are so unique that, we've all been on different timelines of our journey, but still could have had basically the same changes now. But like at my 1 year, I was not where like Drew is with his facial hair. And it was just like, upsetting for me because this is my expectation. And this is the guideline that I've always been given by other doctors or people, or, what I saw. And it was like, why isn't this happening? It's like, no, like, so this is your journey, your experience, and you don't have to do things one way in order to be trans. Like, if you don't want top surgery, if you don't want to have bottom surgery, or a mixture of things within transitioning.
That's going to be my thing. Hold on, stop talking.
That was adorable.
Because I was like, oh, you already told the thing I was going to say, which is the like, don't compare yourself. But like, I will say, like, there isn't a wrong way to be trans. Like, if you want to be a little bit trans, that's okay. If you want to be a lot trans, go for it. Like I think what I didn't understand about the whole identity and the whole process of transitioning is that it is an independent individual experience. Like you can choose to like, just take hormones. Like I knew some people that wanted to take just a bit of testosterone just to like queer themselves up a little bit. And like just that made them feel their non-binary trans fantasy. And then there are people who want to go full on, like get all the surgeries, get all the hormones, like just do everything. Like there's such a variety, but like anywhere in between, like whatever you're doing is like enough. Like you can aspire to things, obviously, like set goals for and expectations for yourself, but like, be realistic, understand that it's your independent experience.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell to a lot of my followers and stuff is, you know, every body is different and everybody is different. So what it looks like for one person, it's not going to look the exact same for you. You just got to be patient, trust the process.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, I definitely want to thank you, Felicia and Rylee, for being a part of the show. And as always, I would like all the listeners to remember, live with purpose and live your truth.
Thank you for listening to Transforming with Us. You can like, follow, and share on all major platforms to keep up with all things trans and queer.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.